Hey y'all, welcome back to another video. So, haven't been on YouTube in months. We've had COVID, we still have COVID, but like the world is opening up again. So, hey, how y'all doing? It's been a while, but today's video is on where I am today, and as you can tell by the title, I'm in Virginia. I moved to Virginia. So let's start all the way from January. So January started 2020. It actually started pretty rough for me. Financially, was a lot of financial loss. Actually, let's rewind to December. I was fasting in December with a friend, and one day of the fast towards the end, God showed me that wilderness season was coming for me, and I'm just like, okay, God, like, I know you've told me to apply to Liberty and you told me to go here, so maybe that's when my wilderness will start, when I get here. No, God was like, no baby. Literally January 1st, finances went down, like down. And to basically sum it up, like the first week of February, I got evicted from my apartment for not having enough money, paying rent obviously, and it was very, very hard time for me. Yes, fly your plane. But anyway, evicted. I was so defeated the first 2 months of the year with all of that situation going on in finances, and it was very stressful, very, very stressful. It was literally a high moment and a low moment all at once, because in the midst of that, I got accepted to Liberty University to my master's, which that's what I'm doing right now. And it was like, wow, I'm so happy, you know, that God has shown me to apply to Liberty, and I applied, I got in, and as great as that is, I'm going through being evicted, God, you know? So it was a lot, but one verse that really God anchored me in during this season was Isaiah 41:10, and it reads, "Do not fear anything, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Be assured I will help you. I will certainly take hold of you with my righteous right hand." And at first, that's a verse that really anchored me during that season, and God opened the door for a friend to open her home to me. It was great. Like, we were moving closer through that situation. So many small yet big blessings happened through that, and it was great. Once I realized that, okay, God is with me, although the circumstance looks like he isn't, I know he is with me. He provided another door for me to still finish school, because I was in my last semester at the University of Central Florida getting my bachelor's, and then COVID, and it was just a lot. But thankfully he had someone open their door to me, and it was such a blessing, and I love her, appreciate her forever. But so that was that season. And then around, I want to say the beginning of the summer, I was like, okay, I'm going to Liberty. Awesome, God, you said that before I applied and you came through. Awesome, I'm going to Liberty, but where am I going to live? And if you know anything about being evicted, which I learned basically, you know, and it hinders your process of finding homes and all of those things. And I'm like, God, like, how am I gonna move to another state? I don't know anyone. I've never visited here. I'm literally stepping out on complete faith. But where am I gonna live? Like, who's gonna allow me to rent, you know? Was my mentality. And for like the first, maybe like for a while, I was very concerned with that. I was more concerned with, okay, God, like, what about the details? My family going to pay to bring me up here? Where am I going to live? How am I going to pay for school? Like, how are all these things going to happen? God just like, trust me, trust me, trust me. I'm like, God, I do, but at the same time, I don't. Honestly, one week I'll be like, wow, like, I trust God, I really trust God. And then the next week I'm like, God, like, I don't know, like, things are getting harder, things are getting closer. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find somewhere to live. I don't know Am I gonna make friends here? I don't know anyone here. Like, what's gonna happen when I'm here? Like, why do I even have to go all the way over here? We're in the midst of an epidemic and you want me to move? Like, what's going on, God? Like, I need answers. And through it all, God was just saying, like, to trust me. I have you. And thankfully I was around community that always uplifted me when I did get in my moments of doubt. And another scripture that God really that also grounded me during this season is Isaiah 43 verses 18 through 19. Do not remember the former things or ponder on the things of the past. Listen carefully. I am about to do a new thing. Now it will spring forth. You will not be aware of it. I will even put a road in the wilderness, rivers in the desert. And it sounds great. It really does. And God's word is true, but I was really struggling with the lies that it wasn't going to work out, struggling with the constant thought of I was just evicted. Like, how am I going to get another place in the same year? That's like unheard of. Like, how is that going to happen, God? And it was very testing of my faith. God really stretched my faith out a lot during this season, and I'm completely grateful for it. So we can fast forward to June, July. I was really just standing firm. I was going back and forth with, okay, God, I trust you, I trust you, I trust you, and also just, you know, denying the lies that he isn't going to provide for me, but remembering like he is Jehovah Jireh and he is provider, and not just provider in my finances, but provider in all things of my life because he cares for me. And once I really started to believe that, and actually instead of knowing it but actually believing in my heart, that's when things started to shift for me, and that's when my perspective started to change. So now let's fast forward to the second week of August. I was like, okay, I'm going to Virginia. And people would ask me like, do you know where you're gonna live? I said no, but God does. Like, he's sending me there. If he told me to go, I know he's gonna provide. Because why? Wherever God tells you to go, he provides, because he's not a God who is just mean and cruel to where he's gonna send you somewhere and not have something already set up for you. Because again, he is Jehovah Jireh, provider, and boy is he that. So the week before coming to Virginia and starting school, I get an email saying that there's an option where you can basically do school online because the classroom was too small for like all the students, and basically you'll be rotating every other week if you choose to come in person or do it online. So I'm like, wow, you know, that sounds like a good option. Like, I don't even know where I'm gonna live anyway, so why not stay home, right? And I knew that once I said that, I was like, yeah, that's the enemy, you know, like that's the enemy trying to tell me, yeah, this looks like a good option, this looks like the way out to avoid all the other things, but God told me to go. And because God told me to go, just because that looks good doesn't mean I should choose that. I should still be focusing on what God said from the beginning, because if he said go from the beginning, it didn't just change overnight, you know? So I was like, okay, that sounds good, but no. I remember I spoke to my friend and I was just like, girl, like, should I just like stay here? Like, you know, you have the option. And she was like, no, Bianca, God said go, so that's what he meant. And I'm just like, yeah, I know, you're right, but thanks for, you know, reminding me of that. And I was like, okay, God. And during that week before school, another scripture that he brought to my attention is Hebrews 11 verse 11. By faith, even Sarah herself received the ability to conceive a child, even when she was long past the normal age for it, because she considered him who had given her the promise to be reliable and true to his word. Everything told Sarah she couldn't have a baby. Her body was old, her mind was already made up. She, I'm pretty sure, received already so much backlash from people because she wasn't able to have a child. And of course, in that context back then, without having a kid, as a woman, you weren't really seen as much. So Sarah was already in a negative space when it came to having a child. But because she believed God instead of the promise, then the promise came. And I'm just like, exactly, Bianca. Like, regardless of the circumstances that we go through, regardless of the chaos that may be going on, what are we going to choose to stand on? We have to choose to stand on God's word and God's truth, which does not change. And to remember, like, he's faithful and he is a promise keeper. And I was just like, okay, God, yes, like, you're a promise keeper. You're not a liar, like your word says. You are not. And I choose to believe what you said. I choose to believe that you said to go. I choose to believe that if you told me to go and I did hear you correctly, you will provide a way for me. And that's what I'm going to stand on, because you are faithful, not me, but you are faithful. And because you are faithful, you will not go contrary to your word. And I was like, okay, let's do this, parents. Let's pack up a bag. Like, let's do all this stuff home, maybe like a few days before school started on that Saturday. And first of all, on that Friday, we were supposed to get a rental, and so we can leave early Saturday morning. We went to the rental place. It was an issue because they were closed, even though the website said they were open and all these things. So we had to go to another place, but then they didn't have anything until the next morning, and we're just like, okay, like, we just have to wait till the next morning. And once I saw that, I knew that was the confirmation for me, where it was just like opposition. And if there's opposition, that means I'm going the right way. That means the enemy doesn't want me to come this way, so opposition is not presenting itself. And maybe for someone else, they would have seen the opposition and said, oh, that means there's a sign for me to stay. But when God tells you to go somewhere, the enemy is also very upset and send things your way, and God would allow it to happen, because at the end of the day, it tests your faith. And when I saw that first opposition, I was like, okay, I'm going in the right direction, so let me keep walking. We ended up leaving that Saturday later than we expected. In the midst of getting lost while driving, she messages me and tells me, like, oh, we've been having students come and rent here, and they've been having parties, so we don't want you guys here, basically. And I just kind of ignored it, because I'm like, we're lost at a time. So once we woke up that Sunday, once we woke up that Sunday, I was like, God, just give me the words to say, soften this lady's heart, because, like, we need somewhere to stay when we come here. Like, there's no other option. This is the option. And God did what he did. He softened her heart. The Airbnb was beautiful, so nice. I wish I would have recorded it, but it was just a lot going on. Monday morning, I started my program. I started school. I had classes on Monday. My parents were still here with us. Were still here with me, because they weren't leaving till that Wednesday, because I still needed to look for a place to live. Later on that Monday, I went on the Facebook page to, like, where you look up roommates and things here, and I found this landlord, and she was looking, like, for 2 more Christian girls to, like, rent at her place, and it was super inexpensive. But she wasn't able to meet that Monday, but she could meet after 5:30 on Tuesday. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cutting it close, because my parents leave Wednesday morning, but, like, whatever. What do I have to lose? So I woke up Tuesday morning. I was very, 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 very anxious Tuesday morning. Just the thought of, like, my parents were leaving that Wednesday, and I was just like, okay, I'm here. Like, I'm in Virginia. Like, God is gonna work it out. I started school, but God, where am I living? Where am I living? And that was one of the most testing days, testing moments of my life, guys. But we ended up visiting this other apartment place, and it was really nice. It was a little bit more expensive, but didn't end up working out. And I was just like, God, like, what are we gonna do? Like, God, like, I know you told me to come here. I know I heard you right. I know what you said. I know your truth. I know you're faithful. But, like, what are we gonna do? Like, this place that I thought was an option, it didn't fall through. So then he was just like, you have the other place with the 2 Christian girls she was looking for. And I was like, okay, like, whatever, like, I'll just go look there. Like, I don't even care. Like, I don't even want to look here anymore. I'm just like, I'm over this. But literally, guys, like, as I met her, my parents met her too, and we went to go look at the place. It's beautiful. It's a mile from the school. Like, it's so, so pretty. And it's one of the only places from, because obviously prior to me coming here I would look up different housing places and things like that, but this was the only place that I saw and I've actually visited where I had peace. And once I had that peace, I was like, you know, I think this is it. And she was like, okay, we'll try to like send you the application and stuff, and like prayerfully we get you everywhere and get you everything situated by the next morning on Wednesday, that you know Wednesday whether you're approved or denied. And I'm like, okay girl. That Tuesday, after we left her at like 6 p.m. we went back to Airbnb. I started filling out all the application work and I sent it to her. Up Wednesday morning, we left the Airbnb, and honestly from Tuesday I was in so much doubt, but in Wednesday I was like, I knew God was, this place was for me. I knew that this is the place that God had for me. I knew because my parents are leaving today, God is not just going to leave me here outside with nowhere to live. I knew this was it. And the price was right. I had peace about the situation. It's a mile from the school. Everything was just so perfect. And as we were waiting for her response, we ended up going to Ross, and I was like, you know, I still need some bathroom mats. Like I need a little bit of bathroom stuff. So you know what? This apartment's mine. Let me, instead of saying I have faith, let me actually walk in that faith. And I started buying a few stuff, and I'm just like, this apartment's mine. Like I told my mom, she was like, you're buying a lot. And I'm just like, yeah, like this apartment's mine. Like I know it's mine. Like this is it. So I bought things in faith, and then we went to Walmart, and then as we were walking into Walmart, I had this thought where I was just like, you know, God waited until the last minute to work out this Airbnb situation. What is his chances of doing that again for this apartment situation? And I'm like, that's probably what he's gonna do, because he doesn't work on Bianca's timing, he doesn't work on your timing, he doesn't work on anyone else's timing but his own. And we walked into Walmart and we went to go get a mattress, and then literally as we were walking, the lady messages me, I want to give you another chance, we think you'll be great, and yada yada yada, you're approved. And like, y'all, I literally started praise dancing in Walmart. Like I did not care. I was just so like grateful. I could have like break down, and I honestly wanted to cry, but like, I was like, no, I need to go get groceries because my parents are about to leave me and I need to make sure I have stuff. But I was so thankful, and I'm still so thankful of what God did. It's so amazing to just be here and to not just to be in God's promise, to be where he's called me to be. And it's been such a blessing being here in Virginia. I didn't have much expectations coming here. I've never been to Virginia before, especially this part of Virginia, and it's so imperative that we, instead of focusing on what everything looks like, we have to focus on what God has promised, because God is faithful to what he promises. His timing is not our timing at all, but his timing is perfect. And what seems like it will be the last minute is the perfect time for him, because his glory reigns even greater in those exact moments. And that is exactly what happened for me. And now it's been it's been a month now since I've started my program, and I love it. I cannot wait to be a counselor. I really cannot wait. I love what I'm learning. I love the nature here. I love coming out in my backyard and seeing deers and beavers. Maybe 2 weeks into me being here, I got a job, and it's not even a job in Virginia, it's actually a job in Miami, but virtually, and I'm able to basically be a counselor, a mentor to other high schoolers, and it's literally the perfect job. If you know anything about me and my story, I've never had a job. I've literally, out of high school, I applied to jobs for the past 5 years. I've heard a lot of no's, a lot of nothing backs. This job is literally perfect. It is on time. It is everything I could have and more I could have even dreamed of for myself. So it's literally every day I wake up and I'm just like so blessed to be here, and I'm just like in awe of God, of the fact that he said this one thing, like, go. That's the one thing he told me last year summer about Liberty, is to go. And I'm so thankful that I ran on God's goal, even in the midst of the chaos, first of all, in the world, and also in the chaos of my own life, of being evicted and being scared and being anxious and being worried. But during that, it stretched my faith, it pruned me, it removed things that I had as idols, such as money and pride and so many other things, and really stripped me down to see that if anything, nothing else is provider, nothing else can give me joy, nothing else can fulfill me like God. And it's because of God that I'm here. Such great things and goodness that has come my way, and it's nothing to do with because of me. It's not because I'm just like so special and like God just loves me more than anyone. It's literally because He is faithful, and because I chose to trust Him and I chose to believe that He is faithful at the end of the day and to go on His word. He showed out, and He is still showing out, and He is still pouring out His goodness on my life, and I'm in awe. Like, that's all I can say. Like, I'm in just so much awe of God, and I thought it was just so imperative for me to record this video because I remember in the midst of the doubt that I was having during the summer especially, I saw a video where another couple, and they had moved and they didn't know where they were living. They didn't have a car, they didn't have nothing, but as they went day by day and followed what God told them to do, He came out, He showed out, and they're fine, and they're more than fine. They're literally eating of the goodness of God daily. And the way that encouraged me in that moment, I knew I needed to record this when this happened for me so that it can encourage someone else. And I really pray that's what it does, and that God gets the glory out of it all, because I'm only here because of God. I did nothing. I didn't have no requirements. Like everything in the world said no, said yes. And when God says yes, that's all you need. You don't need anything else. You don't need approval from your mama. You don't need approval from your best friend. You don't need approval from nobody else but God. And if God tells you to go, if God says yes, if God said this is the promise I have for you, this is what He will do, because He is faithful, and because He is not a liar. He will not go back on His word, because He is not going to move contrary to His promise. He is not going to move contrary to the nature of who He is. And God is faithful, guys. Like, faithful, 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 faithful. As I'm here, and as I continue to be here for the next 3 years, I'm so excited to see what else God is going to do. I know this is just the beginning, and I can't imagine what else He's going to do, because I couldn't imagine this for myself at all. I'm so grateful that I said goodbye to my plan, goodbye to the things that I thought were better for me, and chose to step into what God has for me, because He has blown my mind. He has protected me every single step of the way. It has not been easy, nor will it continue to be easy, but so much greater to be in God's hands. It is so much greater to be in God's will than out of His will, because I'm fearful. Thing you get out of hearing this video, out of seeing my faith, that God is faithful and He is true to His word, and if He's promised you something, it will come to pass. If He said yes, it will come to pass. If everyone around you says no, if your circumstances say no, if the opposition increases and says no, if the enemy tells you no, if he tries to come back at you with the lies of your past and tells you no, this is not for you, but God said this is for you, you meditate on what God says, you meditate on the truth of who God is, and it will come to pass in His perfect timing. Not in your perfect timing, not in my perfect timing, but in His perfect timing, because He is true to His word and His nature. And that's all. I'm not a preacher, okay? But yeah, guys, if anything you get, God is faithful. I love you, He loves you, and God bless.